Hello everybody and welcome back to the StarCityGames.com Philadelphia Open. I'm Chris Van Meter. We've got Andrew Boswell. We are getting ready for our finals match. Gerry Thompson on Cullis Eldrazi versus Noah Walker on Grixis Delver. This match is very, very important. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of SCG points that are on the table. These are very important for Gerry. If he wins this, he's going to be in that top 3 and try and secure a spot for the Players' Championship.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm getting all wiggly and jiggly in my chair. I'm getting all excited for this. Gerry Thompson, he's, off to the races. A lot of this matchup, what it's going to come down to is Gerry is going to be playing the more muscular and powerful deck. He's going to be looking to make plays that Noah just can't handle. Gerry has some extremely fat creatures, and when we're talking fat, we're talking 4/4s, 5/5s, some of which have haste and trample.
That Tarmo Gym.
Yeah, Gerry's been at the Tarmo Gym. He might have even started the Tarmo Gym. And he also has some other plays like Chalice of the Void that can really knock out or lock out whole swaths of Noah's deck. So Gerry Thompson is playing the more muscular, powerful deck. It's probably going to be a little faster onto the board. It's going to be a little bit more impactful. Noah on the other side, like so many of these classic blue decks that play Delver, are based on being hyper efficient and kind of threading that needle. His plays are going to be a little bit more eloquent.
So Gerry's going to start off with an Eldrazi Temple and an Eldrazi Mimic. Noah's going to go down to 18, use a Gitaxian Probe to take a look at Gerry's hand, see that he only has one other land in his hand, which is the City of Traders, and then he's going to fire off a Wasteland to take care of that Eldrazi Temple. Gerry, however, has picked up a Cavernous Souls for the turn, so if he decides to get rid of the Cavernous Souls, he can use that City of Traders along with this Mox Diamond to cast a Matter Reshaper, which is exactly what he's going to do, going to get his beat down on, and if he happens to find another land, he can deploy that Thought-Knot Seer, and that card's going to be very difficult for Noah to handle.
Yeah, and I was mentioning before how Gerry's going to be playing a lot of cards that are just too powerful for Noah to handle. The fact that Gerry has Cavernous Souls in his deck is going to be one of the powerful ways that Gerry has to force through those threats. So while he's discarding it now, that's a little unfortunate, but he has a bunch of them in the deck and can potentially draw another.
So he is going to play that Matter Reshaper. Eldrazi Mimic's going to become a 3/2. It's going to crash in for 3, bringing Noah down to 15. Noah's going to use a Flooded Strand on his turn, get a Volcanic Island, and a Lightning Bolt's going to take care of that Eldrazi Mimic.
And I like bolting the Eldrazi Mimic there. Even though it currently has less power than the Matter Reshaper, the Eldrazi Mimic has the potential to grow much larger, and that Matter Reshaper, it will convert into a new card, so Noah may not even be gaining much traction if he kills it.
So Gerry is just going to attack and pass the turn. Noah's going to play a Young Pyromancer, and Gerry's going to have a Warping Whale on his end step to exile the Young Pyromancer. That's going to get a lot of value.
It's pretty phenomenal to see how different cards are good in different formats. Warping Whale is a card that we've seen in Standard, and it has gotten 0 play. And for the most part, rightly so. Standard is just a lot of large creatures. In Legacy, on the other hand, Legacy is a little bit more focused on just being efficient, and so a lot of the threats have either 1 toughness or 1 power, and Warping Whale has proven time and time again throughout this tournament to be a pretty effective removal spell.
Now Gerry's been able to find a copy of Eldrazi Temple, so he's going to be able to cast his Thought-Knot Seer. This is going to prompt Noah to force a will pitch into Daze. Now it's important to note that Gerry is able to cast that Thought-Knot Seer, leaving up his Mox Diamond, which would have paid for a Daze. So this forced Noah into using his Force of Will to actually get rid of that Thought-Knot Seer. He's just going to deploy a Young Pyromancer on his turn, pass the turn back to Gerry, but Noah's already down to 7, which is a precariously low life total.
Yeah, Gerry has a Reality Smashers in his deck, which can prove brutal, but Noah's Young Pyromancer has the capability of kind of taking over this game.
So Gerry has been able to find a copy of Chalice of the Void, which he's going to cast, X = 1. Noah does have a Brainstorm in response, which is going to bring along an Elemental token. Now, if this Chalice does happen to resolve, it is going to make it so Noah's not going to be able to cast the majority of spells in his deck. However, he can still cast them, they just won't resolve. He did find a Daze with that Brainstorm. Not only is he going to be able to counter the Chalice of the Void, but also get another Elemental token. A Wasteland on the Eldrazi Temple, and he just has this great board, but he's at 3 and Gerry has a 3. Or he's at 4 and Gerry has a 3/2. He's going to attack for 3, bring Gerry down to 7, and pass the turn.
Yeah, and we can really see Delver doing its Delver thing. Again, it's predicated on efficiency, trading its resources. Both of them are actually operating on a similar number of resources. Noah has 2 mana sources and a creature. Gerry has 1 mana source and a creature, so pretty similar. We can see that Noah's deck still functions in that reduced state, whereas Gerry, a lot of his plays are cut off.
So Noah has found another copy of Brainstorm. He's going to cast it, get another elemental token, put 2 cards back on top of his deck, but it feels like he's poised to try and run away with this game. He's going to attack for 3 with his Young Pyromancer and an elemental, bring Gerry down to 14, cast another Young Pyromancer, and then pass the turn back to Gerry.
Yeah, and we can see Noah opting to simply chump block the Matter Reshaper rather than trade it. And I kind of like that play. It allows Noah to continually attack. He's got 2 of these Young Pyromancers, so he can essentially chump block forever. And if that Matter Reshaper converted itself into a land for Gerry, it may open up the rest of Gerry's hand and create a whole host of problems. So I like Noah's line of play of to just chump block with the Matter Reshaper rather than trade with it.
So Noah's been able to play a Ponder off the top of his deck, finds a Brainstorm, casts a Brainstorm, bringing with it 4 elemental tokens from these double Young Pyromancer, and he's generating quite a board. He's going to be able to chump block this Matter Reshaper while continuing to attack with some of his creatures. Gerry's down to 9. Noah is still at 4, which is quite low, but he has a huge board right now.
Yeah, and it looks like Gerry picked up a land. Unfortunately, it's Ancient Tomb, which is going to be dealing damage to Gerry. Gerry's fast mana does come at some costs, and the fact that Ancient Tomb is going to be dealing damage if Gerry wants to use it is a little bit of a problem here. So Noah's just going to be swinging in the 2 powerful... Noah swings in, is way too powerful. He's got too much stuff going on. Swings in with the army, and Gerry scoops it up.
So all those elemental tokens, I will say I feel like they would be doing a little bit more if they were CBMs instead of Dylan Donigans, but I digress. Noah Walker is going to take game 1 in this finals against Gerry Thompson with his Grixis Delver deck against Colorless Eldrazi. Let's take a look at the sideboards and see just what we've got going on. Gerry has 3 more copies of Warping Wail, a Dismember, and Umezawa's Jitte, or 2 Umezawa's Jitte, 2 Pithy Needle, 2 Allus Dust, 3 Fairy Macabre, and 2 copies of Sphere of Resistance. What do we think he's going to bring in? So
I think he's going to bring in the Warping Wails. It targets a lot of Noah's threats. I think that the Dismember is something that he may also want to bring in. Umezawa's Jitte is probably going to be a house in the matchup. Pithing Needle is also something he may be interested in as a way to protect his lands from Wasteland.
Well, that is a good point. Now, Noah Walker has 2 copies of Painful Truce, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Pyroblasts, and Engineered Explosives, a Pithy Needle, a Dismember, a Dark Blast, a Cabal Therapy, a Grim Lavamancer, an Ancient Grudge, and 2 Baleful Strix. What do we think he's going to do?
So I'm a little interested to see how much of the mid-range elements Noah brings in. I definitely think that he's going to bring in the 2 Baleful Strix. I definitely think he's going to bring in Ancient Grudge. Grim Lavamancer is probably going to be good enough in the matchup also. It's going to allow his Lightning Bolts to combo to kill a Reality Smasher as well as take out the Eldrazi Mimics that come out early. Cabal Therapy is probably his best answer to cards like Reality Smasher and Thought-Knot Seer. Dismember can probably come in. And I believe that Engineered Explosives will also come in as a way to deal with the Endless Ones. If he wants to bring in Painful Truce, that is really showing that he thinks that he has a lot of time in the matchup. Painful Truce is a pretty big cost. We've seen it in Standard and Modern. In Legacy, it's quite good, but it's not as good in those formats because Legacy is so fast. So I'll be curious to see if Painful Truce comes in or not, but I think the other ones will.
That definitely makes quite a bit of sense. Now, these players are in the finals of this event. They've played 15 rounds of Swiss. You know, this is the 3rd round of the top 8 match, so this is their 18th round of Magic on the day. They've got to be tired. It's got to be grueling. They've been battling their hearts out. All for what? Let's go ahead and take a look at the payouts one final time. The winner of this match is going to get $5,000 and 30 SCG points. It's going to catapult Gerry into the top 3. It'll give him a shot at trying to qualify for the Players' Championship. 30 points is so many points that it might even put Noah within the top 32, which will allow him to get a bye at one of these opens. So this is going to be very important for both players. But whoever doesn't win, you're still going to get $2 grand and 25 points. So there is a lot of points on the line, and both these players are going to be getting a lot of points. Fourth place is going to get $1 grand and 20 points. Top 8, 515 points, and so on and so forth as we move down the field. And again, there were only 64 players that made day 2.
Yeah,
so
it's nice the way that worked out.
Every single one got a little extra money and those extra SCG points, which are very, very important. Make it worthwhile to come and travel to these events. We see teams, Team Lotus, Next Rich Games, Nerd Rage Games, Disciples of Bolus. All these people are forming these teams and traveling to the events. That's just how important it is to try and gather these open points.
I have to imagine that if Noah's not on a team now, he's got to get picked up by one soon.
Yeah, you'd think.
Yeah.
I know these good friends with Dylan Donegan. I see they hang out quite a bit.
Yeah.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the next Open that he shows up at, he has a Next Rich Games hoodie.
Yeah, I definitely know that Noah is fairly well connected in the community. He's a player that has played a lot of events. He's done well at a lot of them. He's the one of the members that is essentially the hot young blood in the community, and he knows a lot of people. I'm sure it's not going to be long until he's on a team.
So for those of you who are just joining us, we are in the finals of the StarCityGames.com Philadelphia Open. Noah Walker is up a game with his Grixis Delver deck against Gerry Thompson, who is on colorless Eldrazi. It's actually very important. Gerry, who is the 5th seed coming into this finals, into the top 8, he had to play. So Noah was able to steal a game on the draw against a deck that's trying to leverage its fast mana against everything in the format.
Yeah, very impressive indeed. A real battle of, the OG versus the new kid. And the new kid took him down round 1.
Yeah, I have to feel like the crux of that game 1 was the Wasteland Noah was able to use on the Eldrazi Temple, and then the Force of Will that he had for Gerry's Thought-Knot Seer. Being able to leverage this mana is something this colorless Eldrazi deck can do, which is awesome. But not having Force of Will means you're at a disadvantage against decks that do have Force of Will.
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting too, because when you first look at this colorless Eldrazi deck, it has a lot of lands. Some of the lists we've seen have been upwards of 25 lands. Right, exactly. And so when you first look at it, you think, oh, Wasteland's probably not good that good against them because they just have so many lands. But the fact of the matter is they play 25 lands because they need all of those lands.
So Gerry's going to start out with an Eye of Ugin, which is going to give him a free Eldrazi Mimic, and then pass the turn back to Noah Walker. Noah's going to use his Polluted Delta, fall down to 19, go ahead and get a land out of his deck. Let's see what he gets. Underground Sea, Volcanic Island, low column A, low column B. We got an Underground Sea.
Yep. Wow, that was a nice little rhyme.
I try.
Yeah, pretty good.
I used to be a rapper.
Really?
No, but I'm told I look like Action Bronson.
Nice.
So Noah Walker's going to play a Deathrite Shaman and then pass the turn back to Gerry.
So Gerry, starting with the Eldrazi Mimic, is a pretty good start. I think the most devastating start he could have is just a Chalice on 1.
So Gerry's going to go ahead and use an Ancient Tomb and a Dismember, so that's going to be
a lot of life.
6 life, go down to 14. We've got a Matter Reshaper. Man, that's a pretty good turn, though.
Yeah, that is a good turn. I mean, he had to pay a lot of life for it, and he had specific lands to enable the play, but he essentially had access to 6 mana on turn 2, which is a pretty big deal. When you start combining these cards that allow you to cheat mana, I mean, in this case, it's Phyrexian mana with Eldrazi mana, it allows for some really powerful sequences.
So he's just going to pass the turn back to Noah after attacking for 3 with that Matter Reshaper, knocking him down to 16. Let's see how Noah decides he wants to play this. There's a Cabal Therapy. Let's see what he names. We got a Reality Smasher. What's the name? We got a Thought-Knot Seer, Warping Whale, and a City of Traders. So, fortunately, there's no Reality Smasher. Unfortunately, Thought-Knot Seer is going to come down next turn and be real big.
Yeah, I have to imagine that if Noah doesn't have very many other plays, and if Gerry did play a Reality Smasher next turn, it would probably be impossible for Noah to win. He'd probably be drawing dead at that point. So I kind of like firing off the Cabal Therapy there just to make sure that he doesn't run into the worst case scenario. But I'm curious to see what else he ends up doing because he has to make some sort of headway on this board.
Well, the bad news is Gerry has City of Traders,
yeah,
Thought-Knot Seer, and Warping Whale. So combined with the Ancient Tomb and the Eye of Ugin that he has on the battlefield, whatever creature Noah decides to play here, if it's a Delver's Secrets, if it's a Deathrite Shaman, Gerry's going to be able to cast both Thought-Knot Seer and Warping Whale, exiling it, crashing in for 7. This is going to be real rough.
Yeah.
Noah's going to take care of that Eye of Ugin so he can't generate a bunch of extra mana. pass it back to Gerry. Looks like he picked up another copy of Eldrazi Mimic. This game, it looks like it's going to be academic at this point. Gerry's just going to put this Thought-Knot here on the battlefield.
Crash in for 7.
Let's see what Noah's working with.
And he's going to potentially be able to kill Noah on the following turn.
So Gerry's going to fall down to 12 from the Ancient Tomb. Noah has a Young Pyromancer, a Delver of Secrets, a Ponder, a Vending Click, a Brainstorm. No more land, so he's going to be stuck casting, maybe one creature next turn, but that Warping Whale is going to take care of either of them.
Yeah, Gerry's draw was quite fast this game. He was able to play a threat on turn 1. On turn 2, he was able to play another threat and answer Noah's board. And now on this turn, he's able to play another threat and fight Noah's hand. So while with Noah stumbling on mana, it's really hard for him to keep up. And normally the Delver deck would be, is the faster deck and has time to cast its cantrips, spin its wheels a little bit to find what it needs, but Gerry is giving him no such time.
So it looks like Gerry is going to take the Brainstorm out of his hand, pass it back, and Noah is going to pack up his cards as we go into Game 3. Noah Walker on Grixis Delver, Gerry Thompson on Colorless Eldrazi. They are tied up 1-1.
Yep, we're going to the rubber match.
We're going to have a Game 3 in the finals here of the Philadelphia Open. What more can you ask for?
Well, not much. This is pretty awesome. You really can't ask for much. I hope the one thing that I would like to ask for is I believe my good old Mama Boz and Grandma are watching.
Yeah.
And
Mama Boz, that's right. Mama Boz and Granny Boz.
Yeah, Mama Boz and Granny Boz. I believe they're watching. I just want to give a quick shout out. They're troopers. They don't even know what's going on, but they like watching anyway.
So while Noah and Gerry are checking their sideboard, make sure they have everything in, I've got one last chance to talk to everybody about something that I am passionate about.
Oh, yeah?
And that's playing more Magic the Gathering. And
you're
going to have more chances to play Magic the Gathering coming up at the StarCityGames.com State and Provincial Championships, April 23rd and 24th of 2016. Go to StarCityGames.com/dates to find out where your local state championship is going to be. We have 62 locations, United States, Canada, Puerto Rico, almost worldwide. Saturday standard, Sunday is modern. Hashtag SCG States is going to be the official hashtag, and you can get these limited edition prints.
Yeah, playing Magic is literally why I get up in the morning, particularly on the weekends, and having another sweet event to go to, is just icing on the cake in terms of my life.
We've got Future City, we've got Past City. Limited edition prints are gorgeous, and they're going to be the playmat. So if you top 8, you get a playmat and a pin for these arts, and if you win the whole thing, you will get a limited edition champion playmat, a medal engraved with the date, with the date and your state. You get an invitational qualification. You still get that top 8 pin, but we also have awesome door prizes where you're going to get customized, oversized tokens for each event. If you're in Alabama, if you're in Wyoming, like you can see there on the screen. So this is a chance to get a unique thing that there's not going to be very many of. They're collector's items. They're gorgeous art pieces done by the in-house artists at StarCityGames.com. Sweet, and these door prizes and stuff is all free.
Yeah, and in particular, the invitationals are a lot harder to get into now than they used to be. So you really want to take every opportunity that you can to qualify for them, and this is going to be one of the best ways to do so.
I absolutely agree. So here we go for those of you just now joining us. Finals, StarCityGames.com, Philadelphia Open. Noah Walker's on Grixis Delver. Gerry Thompson is on this unique, brand new colorless Eldrazi deck. Let's see if we can take it down. I'm excited. Eldrazi have just been stomping all over Modern. We saw that it took over Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch. Now, we're here in the first Legacy Open of the season. Gerry Thompson and colorless Eldrazi. Harlan Fear also made the top 8 with a different colorless Eldrazi list. Is this a real thing? Like, is it just that Gerry Thompson is Gerry Thompson and this is his ham sandwich for the day, or is this colorless Eldrazi deck going to be a real thing in Legacy?
Yeah, well, there's certainly a factor that Gerry Thompson is probably going to do well with whatever deck he decides to play. But when Nick Miller did the metagame breakdown for day 2, colorless Eldrazi was the second best performing deck. There were about 10 Delver decks across the various different blends of Delver, and then there were 9 colorless Eldrazi decks. The next most popular decks were Miracles and Lands. So those are kind of the 4 cornerstones of this weekend, and it's probably going to be that way moving forward as well, I have to imagine. It'll be interesting, though, to see how people adapt. The colorless Eldrazi deck, it's kind of the new kid on the block, but we're seeing people slowly adapt to it. We've seen people play Moat, we've seen people play some other interesting card decisions, and while the Colorless Eldrazi deck is the hot new tech now, it'll be just interesting to see how things move forward and people adapt more and more.
I don't think we've seen this many standard legal cards
Yeah.
in a Legacy Open Finals in a very long time.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's really cool to see one of the new sets have such a big impact on all the older formats. A lot of the times when a new set comes out, you get one or two new cards for Legacy. I mean, it's pretty uncommon. I mean, out of...
there hasn't been a set that's impacted Legacy like this, or this much, since Return to Ravnica, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We had Deathrite Shaman, Abrupt Decay, Supreme Verdict, Detention Sphere, Golgari Charm. Like, these are all cards that have seen, some and a whole lot of Legacy play. In fact, Deathrite Shaman basically changed the face of Legacy.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we've seen a set impact in older formats like this since Return to Ravnica, and that's a pretty tall order.
Yeah, it is a tall order. It's also just really exciting. It's nice seeing things get shaken up so much. For me, being more of a brewer, I enjoy having new decks, but when the format gets stale, you kind of run out of ideas. But then when the format is in flux, you get to revisit all those old ideas that you thought, maybe weren't top-notch.
Well, so it looks like Noah's finally found his 6 that he likes. Gerry has kept his 7. Noah's going to start out with a turn 1 Delver of Secrets. I see a Chalice of the Void hanging out in Gerry's hand. Let's see if he has a solo hand.
This game could be over before it even begins. If Gerry's able to play this Chalice of the Void, it locks Noah out of playing almost all of his deck. Like a little less than half of Noah's cards are 1 mana.
Oh, we do have an Eldrazi Temple casting an Eldrazi Mimic. We got an upkeep. Delver is not going to flip, and Noah's going to take his turn. Yeah,
so that Eldrazi Temple is able to generate 2 mana, but only 4 Eldrazi cards. The Chalice is an artifact. It's not an Eldrazi card, so Gerry's going to need to come up with another land in order to cast that.
So Noah's just going to play a Polluted Delta and pass the turn back to Gerry. Looks like he's found a copy of Endless One for the turn, but let's see what else he has going on in his hand.
So I believe Gerry is probably going to put a lot of weight on that Chalice. So I'm interested to see if he jams it into a potential Daze or if he prefers to cast it later. The thing that's a little tricky about it is Chalice is going to be more powerful the earlier he plays it. So he may be in a situation where if he doesn't play it early, he may find that it's not that great at all.
Well, it looks like he's contemplating attacking with this Eldrazi Mimic, maybe offering up a trade for that Delver of Secrets. He's going to change his mind. Got a lot of options. Here we go. Gerry's going into the red zone. I like it. Noah's not going to block. Go down to 18. And here's a Chalice for 1. Let's see if Noah has a way to stop it. We got a response. Looks like he's going to float a mana and cast Daze.
And Noah really dodged a bullet there. That could have been lights out for his deck. That could have been the end of the game. We might have been crowning a new champion before this game had even gotten started. But Noah having the appropriate answer for the situation is, going to let us see some more magic.
So Noah's going to be able to brainstorm with that floating mana from the Underground Sea, set up the Delver to flip with showing a brainstorm. Going to get into the red zone, attack Gerry down to 17, and now we've got a game. Noah actually is firing on all cylinders. Gerry has 2 lands on the battlefield. But next turn he can start casting things like Thought-Knot Seer, so we'll see exactly what happens. Noah has a young Pyromancer and is just going to pass back.
So Noah's off to quite the good start. We'll see what Gerry can do to battle back. He potentially can have access to 5 mana next turn, so if he has a Reality Smasher, that could be a powerful play. It also looks like he picked up an Umezawa's Jitte, which is really good. The only problem is that Eldrazi Temple, again, it's only going to produce 1 mana in order for casting and equipping the Jitte. So Gerry's mana is giving him a little bit of problems, it seems.
Looks like he does have another copy of Chalice of the Void in his hand as well. And because he has Urborg, this Eldrazi Temple is effectively going, or the Eye of Ugin is effectively going to give him 3 mana towards Eldrazi spells. So he could technically make a 6/6 Endless One this turn and start attacking. He is, however, just going to use a Thought-Knot Seer. Ooh, and this is going to allow him to resolve Chalice of the Void. Thought-Knot Seer is going to get countered by Force of Will. Noah is going to get an Elemental token. It's going to go down to 16 in the meantime. But now Gerry's going to be able to land this Chalice of the Void.
It looks like Gerry has the tools to win this game, but currently Noah has enough of an offense and is ahead on the board where Gerry has to deploy his cards fast enough for them to be impactful. Noah is a deck that can race in a lot of scenarios. The flyers are particularly hard for the Eldrazi deck to deal with. They don't have that much removal for a flipped Delver, and they have no way of blocking anything in the air. So it's going to be a little interesting to see how Gerry plays this.
So it looks like Gerry is going to make a 2/2 Endless one, which will make his Eldrazi Mimic a 2/2, so it's not going to trade with the 1/1 Elemental token. And now we might see a Chalice of the Void post-combat. And if Gerry can find a land next turn to play this Jite and equip it, that could be very, very good for him and very bad for Noah.
But yeah, I would say Chalice plus Jite would be just the hard lock on this game.
Well, there is a
and this looks
Chalice,
like
X
it's going to
equals
resolve,
1.
and this is huge. This is going to cut off so many of Noah's top decks. He can still cast them and generate a token with the Young Pyromancer, but any 1-mana play that he has will be countered by that Chalice of the Void. I believe Noah has 1 Ancient Grudge in his deck, and for his sake, I hope that he draws it soon.
I have to imagine that he boarded it in. He is just going to send this Insectal Aberration into the red zone. It's going to bring Gerry down to 14. He's going to use his Flooded Strand and fetch a land, falling to 13 himself. Well, there's the Tropical Island, so we might see this Ancient Grudge here.
He had the days for the first Chalice.
Oh, it's a Gurmag Angler.
Well, that's pretty good too.
This is a big boy.
This is a big creature. 5/5 is a key power and toughness in this matchup. Gerry doesn't have anything other than Endless Ones that is bigger than a Gurmag Angler, and the Gurmag Angler is going to be able to trade with cards as large as Reality Smasher.
So looks like Gerry picked up a copy of Thought-Knot Seer, which is generally very good. However, Noah doesn't have any cards in his hand, and that Delver of Secrets is just going to keep chipping away at Gerry's life total.
Yeah, casting Thought-Knot Seer when your opponent doesn't have any cards in their hand is a little on the awkward side.
So I think he's just going to cast the Thought-Knot to get it onto the battlefield. He's also going to play that Umezawa's Jite and then pass the turn back to Noah.
It's a pretty powerful play. Gerry has quite the board. I have to imagine that he's advantaged in this, but Noah does have some outs. That Delver is going to be a real problem, and if they're just in a board stall...
Ooh, and there's a Baleful Strix. That is
good.
A good card.
Yep. That Jite equipping next turn, though, is still going to be a big problem that Noah's not really going to have an answer for. If Noah could draw an Ancient Grudge, he could potentially Ancient Grudge the Chalice and then flash back to kill the Jite and be in the driver's seat for this game.
So he's just going to attack for 3 with his Delver of Secrets. It's going to bring Gerry down to 11. So did he find anything relevant off of that Baleful Strix? Ooh, there's a Wasteland on the Urborg, and that's going to cut off a lot of his mana.
So that is particularly effective at cutting off the mana needed for Umezawa's Jite. As it stands, Gerry cannot equip the Jite, which is a pretty big deal.
That's a pretty sick Wasteland.
That was a really good Wasteland.
Wasteland has been very good for Noah Walker this tournament.
Yeah. Gerry's deck, it plays a lot of lands, and he needs all of them. So a single Wasteland can be a big deal. You can also think of it as, against the Eldrazi deck, your Wastelands are essentially twice as effective as normal because they're killing lands that tap for twice as much mana.
Yeah, and even at that point, that shut off almost 3 mana.
Yeah. Because it was allowing Eye of Ugin not only to generate the normal mana that it does, but also tap for an additional black.
So Gerry's just going to pass the turn back. Let's see if this Baleful Strix decides to get a little dirty in the red zone.
Yeah, these flyers are a real problem. Gerry needs to equip that Jite and start getting to work with it.
The Strix is going to make it a 3-turn clock instead of a 4-turn clock with that Delver of Secrets, so that definitely is a good attack. Gerry, however, has found a copy of Karakas, which is going to allow him to equip his Jite and start getting in the red zone.
Yeah, very good. The one thing that is a little awkward is Gerry doesn't really have any good attacks once he does equip the Jite. His best possible attack is probably to equip the Thought-Knot Seer, but if he attacks with it, Noah can potentially just block with the Gurmag Angler, and that is the sequence that is happening now, which is going to allow Noah draw a card, and Gerry can remove a counter to kill the Gurmag Angler, but he would like to, do something a little more than that.
He can kill the Gurmag Angler, and I think that he might kill the young Pyromancer, but he may even just get rid of that Baleful Strix to try and lengthen Noah's clock.
I would prefer if he killed the young Pyromancer just because it can generate a lot of value. He's got the Chalice to lock out burn spells, and he has the Warping Whale to kill the Baleful Strix later on, but we'll see.
So he's just going to pass the turn back to Noah.
This is a close one. Despite this Chalice, this is really coming down to the wire. The Delver of Secrets is proving to be one of the key components of this game.
So Noah's just going to attack with his Insectile Aberration and his Baleful Strix. This is going to be an attack for 4 coming at Gerry, who's already down to 7 life. And this is a key spot in this game. We are in Game 3 of the finals, Star City Games Philadelphia Open. For all the marbles, Gerry's going to use his... he's going to use his GT counter to get rid of the Baleful Strix. Noah Walker has another copy of Gurmag Angler. Are you a believer of the zombie fish yet?
Yeah, the zombie fish is pretty good here.
Man.
And some of Gerry's draws are starting to get cut off. I mean, if he draws an Ancient Tomb, that's not particularly good here. If he picks up a Dismember, that's going to be a little awkward to cast.
Which he just drew.
Yeah, so this is getting pretty bad for Gerry.
Man, that Urborg would be nice if it was on the battlefield still.
Yeah, it really looked like that he was in a good position, but Noah has been able to keep on keeping on. Is Noah the one who beat the Blood Moon?
Yes.
Noah has just been persevering through some of the classic Delver hate.
He has.
What a baller. Jeez.
Man. Yeah, he has just been playing his behind off this entire tournament.
Total nerd baller over here. This is some young blood that you got to watch out for.
All right, well, he's just going to go ahead and pass back to Noah. Noah does have that Delver. Let's see what he's got going on. Gerry has Warping Whale, so he will be able to, get rid of that young Pyromancer or something.
Seems like if Gerry wanted to do that, he should have done it on his turn, just to make it so that Noah would have less opportunity to generate tokens. Gerry's life total being so low, Noah, every 1/1 token is actually going to matter.
Yeah. Ooh, here comes the zombie fish and the Delver's Secrets. Gerry is at 4. He does have to make a block here, otherwise he's dead.
Yeah, the Warping Whale might just be on. Well. So Gerry's at 1. At least he doesn't have to worry about burn, but he's got some other things to worry about.
There's a Cabal Therapy. It's going to be countered. Here's a Ponder. It's going to be countered. We're just getting some 1/1s.
You know it would be great, a Ratchet Bomb. Ooh, I don't think... I know the other lists play it, but actually Gerry doesn't, so sorry. Sorry to get everyone psyched on stream for a crazy top deck.
And there's another copy of Umezawa's GT, and I think that Noah is going to take
Man,
this.
Gerry Thompson has played so well, but Noah Walker, you better cue the Miley Cyrus because he's coming in like a wrecking ball to finish this game.
Man, well, congrats.